Nut War Television. Every day approaching the topics and the people you motherfuckers want to, but don't. Again, and as usual, the dudes you love to hate. Stylists.
I want to tell you a story. The story's not new, it's not original, it is not exclusive to any nation, geographic location, or culture. As a matter of fact, as I tell you this story, you might hear elements in it that remind you of other stories. You might hear names that ring bells, or, hey, wait a minute, isn't that? You might make all types of connections. This story comes from a few different sources, not just one. This story can be corroborated in a bunch of different scientific journals, old writings, old scriptures, old tales, clay tablets, you name it. The evidence of this story is all around you, but you might not want to accept it. The point of the story isn't to change your faith or make you get mad and rebel or anything like that. It's just to share some information with you that you may not have been privy to before, or you may not have taken the time to see. I've been researching this story since the early 90s, essentially. I wasn't on this one particular topic, but I wondered, why am I here? Another question, like most people that's raised in Christianity ask, is if God was sovereign and the most powerful, why didn't he just destroy the devil so we could all live in peace and harmony and all of that, if the devil is really the cause of all the strife of man? That question led me to a bunch of information that led me to this story. So now I want to tell you about this race of beings. They was a lot like us. You know, we're lucky if we see 100 years. They were different. They would live a few thousand years. Right now, we've explored the genome, made atomic bombs and all that other stuff. We got like cool little gadgets, but they were far, far more advanced than us technologically. But I'll get into that in a minute. They were just like us. They ate, they slept, they drank, they partied, they worked, they had sex. They did all of the retarded stuff that we do. They live on a planet called Nibiru, which is the 10th planet in our solar system. It has a real crazy elliptical orbit. That means it goes clockwise, where all the other planets go counterclockwise. Well, in its position in the solar system, it only comes into contact with the sun and the rest of the planets every 3,600 years, and then it flies way back out into the depths of space. Well, these beings on this planet, you would think that they were so advanced that they would be beyond the stuff that plagues us. You know, fighting, squabbles, disagreements, war, but they wasn't. As a matter of fact, they went to war so much and so often to the point they was messing up their entire ecosystem, environment, and the atmosphere. The people was like, hey, wait a minute, we gonna die. We need to stop this. We need to get one king to bring the whole planet back together. They had their election and they found their king, King An. King An had full reign. They let him, choose the way he was going to rule the planet. He decided his administration was going to be a military campaign. He also set the rules for kingship, the real freaky deaky rules of kingship. See, the only person that could inherit the throne after King An had to be a descendant that was the offspring of the king and his sister. Yeah, I know, right? Incestuous, freaky deaky, yeah. Well, King An did what he did, brought the people together, and they saw peace and prosperity, but the atmosphere was still affected. It was still deteriorating. Well, King An had his rule. He died. And 6 generations later, King Lama was instituted. King Lama was a good guy. Everybody liked him. People loved him. But as far as being a manager and an administrator, dude was weak. He didn't know how to rule the country or fix anything. Well, Lama decided he was going to go up into this tower one day and ponder what to do to fix the environment. And he was up in this tower for a long time. People started getting real irritated. Well, another prince from another bloodline, Alalu, decided he was going to approach Lama and find out what was going on. So when he approached Lama in his tower after all this time, like, yo, you've been gone for a long time. What you been doing? I've been pondering what to do, fix the environment. Well, while you procrastinating and messing around, the atmosphere is still deteriorating. We need to get something happening. Lama still wanted to ponder. So Alalu helped him ponder. He threw his ass off the damn tower and killed him and assumed the throne. Thing is, it wasn't his time to rule. Whose time it was one of his descendants, King Anu. Anu approaches Alalu like, wait, it's my time to rule. You can't just usurp the throne. Well, to shut him up, the first thing Alalu said was, listen, I'll give my daughter to your son, and they have a kid, their offspring is going to be the ruler of this planet. You fall back, be my cupbearer right now, let me be king. When I'm gone, your family will hold the throne for the rest of eternity. Ain't a bad deal. Anu goes along with it. To fix their atmosphere, they had one of two options. They could go find some substance in the solar system, suspend it in the atmosphere, and fix the hole in the ozone, or they could set up a few volcanoes or whatever and try to make some type of overcast cloud, to shield them from the radiation and the air escaping from the ozone layer. Well, Alalu decided to nuke the volcanoes, but it didn't work. It helped a little bit, but ultimately it didn't help. Well, after a while, King Anu like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be ruler anyway, and you really ain't fixing the problem. So he approaches Alalu. They get into a fight. To put it in common plain terms, Anu kicked Alalu's ass. Well, since he was king now, it's time to get rid of Alalu and his administration and take over. Alalu, scared, loads up a spaceship with a bunch of nuclear missiles, shoots off into space, right? Lands on Earth. When he gets to Earth, he finds the substance he's looking for. We call it gold. He radios back to the home planet and he says, hey, I found the mineral that you need. It's right here where I am. I'm not on that planet anymore. And I took all of the nuclear missiles. So the next time Nibiru comes into the solar system, if you don't let me get my kingship back, I'm going to blow your ass out the sky. Well, as you can imagine, this disturbed King Anu. He didn't want to have his ass blown out the sky, and he didn't believe that dude had really found the substance. While this is all going on, you have to take into account that King Anu had 3 kids. One named Enki, one named Enlil, one named Ninma. Well, while everything is going on, his firstborn son, Enki, who couldn't get the throne because he was the son that King Anu had with some concubine knockoff. He had a little jump off, hit it, had a kid. It's his son, but he can't be prince. Well, King Anu banged his sister, and he had a kid with her. Well, 2 kids, Enlil and Ninma. So Enlil was the next one to be the ruler, technically. Well, while everything is going on, Enki hears what's going on. He goes, hey, I'll fly to this planet that he went to, and I'll find out if he's telling the truth, and I'll let you know if they got the substance we need, and we'll go from there. He pretty much cut his brother Enlil out off top. King goes along with it because something got to happen. The people getting restless. All right, go ahead. So he takes off from the home planet and he goes to Earth. Enki. He lands in the Persian Gulf and he finds gold in the water. Radios back to his pops. Hey, found the gold. We all good. We're going to send it back. Meanwhile, Alalu is saying that he's king of the Earth and home planet. Well, that got to get fixed. So what they do, they take the missiles from this guy, take his spaceship, fill it up with gold, and they send it back to the planet. So pretty much now he's stuck on Earth. The only person that has a spaceship is Enki. Get it? Well, after a while hearing all this nonsense that he's talking or whatever, Enki calls his father like, hey, you need to come down here and settle this because dude's bugging out. The whole time, Alalu thinking, well, I got these missiles, I got them. He don't know that Enki done found them, took them, hid them somewhere else or whatever, so he don't really have no power anymore. Well, King Anu comes to Earth, and they fight again. And this is all in Sumerian mythology. This part is going to trip you out. They fight again, and I guess they was having a butt-naked sword fight or something, but somehow this guy, Alalu, bites off Anu's dick. And when he bites off Anu's dick, it makes him sick. He's poisoned. He's dying. Well, as a punishment, they decide to send this guy Alalu and one of his buddies to Mars. Well, they go to Mars. They're there for a while, and they die. Okay? Anu goes home, and he sends his daughter to Earth with medical officers to look after the miners. On her way to Earth, she stops off at Mars to see what's going on with the 2 dudes who got deposed to Mars, and they're both dead. She resurrects one, Anzu, the dude who bit off her daddy's dick, she left dead. She asked him what was going on and all these other things, whatever the case is. He told her what was happening, whatever. So she instituted him, put him in a position of power and gave him 20 men to work with. And then they made a monument to Alalu because he basically did find the element that they needed, on this other planet, Earth. So they left the monument on Mars as a constant reminder for all time to give him his respect, even though he was a fucked up dude. She leaves Mars and comes to Earth, and she lands in Lebanon. First thing she did was plant the first vineyard. Now, for everybody that heard what I just said, Ninma planted the first vineyard. So grapes are not from Earth. Well, her brother Enlil, who she used to bang on the low and had a son with, he sees her. It's been a long time. He's feeling her. He want to get up in that again. She ain't having no parts of it because of the trouble she had with having his son. She disses him. Him, rejected, feeling down. He rapes one of her assistants, and she gets pregnant. Well, the council back on Nibiru, they get pissed about that. And Enlil was banished from all lands to some remote part of Africa. Funny part about it, the guy who was taking him to his prison, basically they found somebody to choose where he would be secluded at. And this person they found was Enki, his brother's, one of his partners. Well, when he found this spot, he took him to the very spot where Enki had hid the missiles that he took from Alalu. Take him to the spot and on some suck up, kiss up shit, gave the missiles to Enlil, and he knew Enki didn't want Enlil to have them. Well, now Enlil has a little bit of power. He just needs his time. When asked what does she want, the girl who got raped, her name was Sud, she said, if dude marries me, then he don't have to be banished, but he has to make me his royal wife. So they tell Enlil he's okay with it. He marries her. So he basically commutes his sentence of banishment and he's restored to power. While all this is going on, Enki and Ninma are on the low fucking in Africa, and they're making kid after kid after kid, but they're all girls. Enki really is trying to get a son up out of his sister so he can possibly have an heir, so he can have a little bit of power. But all she keep doing is dropping girls. She gets sick of him getting her pregnant and she curses him. Somehow the curse must have been something major because he's all pissed off, storming around, whatever, feeling rejected. So he goes and he bangs his great niece. Her name is Erish Kegel. Well, she gets pregnant. He don't step up for responsibility. He marries her to his son. And when they're married, they have a son called Ningashita. This is Enki's son, Ningashita. Nergal has his son with a chick who's pregnant by his father. So his son is his stepson, cousin, and brother all at the same time. Okay, right now, I have to do some catch-up time because all this boning can be confusing. I'm going to put up a genealogy chart so you can see how it goes. I'll give you a couple of seconds to look at that, and you can tell me how you feel about it. Alright, so a lot of time has passed. This dude, Anzu, who's on Mars, he's basically, handling all the mining operations because the gold is being shuttled from Mesopotamia to Mars and then from Mars back to the home planet. So now he got a crew of 300. They doing all this heavy work and all of that, and they basically, they're the first union. So they start having a problem, and him being the leader of the 300, he comes to, Enlil and Enki like, look, y'all don't let us come back to Earth enough. We don't get enough rest. We ain't getting enough of this nice stuff that y'all make from the grapes that make us feel good. Wine. And, we need some better working conditions or whatever. And he pretty much has the first union strike. While all that's going on, they radio back to King Anu back on Nibiru like, hey, these cats up here on Mars is bugging out. They want all these conditions, and we don't know what to do. King Anu tells them, listen, you have to show him the complete operation so he can understand how important this is because maybe he doesn't know the severity of the situation. Enlil, who just wants to be the ruler, he don't want to tell Anzu anything. He just want to tell Anzu commands and demands, and Anzu should answer him because he's the ruler of Earth, so everybody should just listen to him. It doesn't mean anything to boost morale, anything like that. So when Anzu and his 300 come to Earth, he's talking all of this about, y'all need to listen to me, y'all need to listen to me, and he don't want to show him anything. Anyway, the whole time while Enlil's going on and on and on and trying to be the man, he's not paying attention. This guy Anzu done took a key and he basically has control now of their communications little link. right? So he slips away, kidnaps a pilot, make the pilot take him to the communication center, goes to the communication center, cut off all communication between Earth and the home planet, and now his boys declare him king. Enlil's son, Ninurta, he wasn't going for it. He said bullshit. He goes back, he captures this dude, shoots his plane out the sky, catches him, executes him, restores power. Now, Ninurta is the man and he making everybody follow Enlil's rule. Well, while all that lunacy was going on in the Persian Gulf, over in Africa, Enki's supposed to be overseeing the mining operations, but he done assigned himself a foreman, and him and his son Ningajita are out studying Homo erectus. Then they got a plan. He tells his foreman to overwork the workers. And on the flip side, he tells his workers to work less and complain. When all that goes on, the production of gold is going to drop. When the production of gold drops, Anu was going to call Enlil, which is going to make him come to Africa. And when he get there, trap him and tell him, about all your demands and all that and scare him and make him think that, y'all about to kill him unless, he folds to y'all demands. Enlil, ever the coward, when he gets surrounded and trapped, he calls his father, Anu, come help me, and then kill all these people. But when the king comes and he hears the miners' complaints, he agrees with them. They have been working hard for a whole bunch of years. Something need to be done to fix the load or to get the gold out faster. This is when Enki's little plan comes all out. He says, I know a way for us to make a primitive worker. We can do a couple of things and we can make this being that's going to do what we want it to do. Or you can say it like, he said, let us make man in our image and in our likeness. Well, you know the rest. His brother, ever the hater, objects. Nah, I don't make a slave race. Slavery been abolished. Tools are slaves, not other beings. Ninurta suggested to make machines, not other little creatures. But Enki's like, no, we're not making another creature. We're just speeding along this one particular creature who's already here's evolution. Enlil's against creating a being strictly to be a slave, which is one good thing for him. But Enki says he's not going to be a slave. He's going to be a helper to us. Well, the team was Enki, Ningajita, and Nima. And what they tried to do first, they tried to impregnate the ape woman. That's Enki and Ningajita out there banging, the very early hominids or whatever. They ain't get nothing. Then they tried to do like in vitro fertilization with the ape woman. They tried it again, the in vitro technique that is, but they used the ape woman's egg in an Anunnaki womb. So they impregnated the ape woman's eggs, put it in an Anunnaki woman, and then they made the first man, who you would say was a Homo erectus or whatever, Adamu, right? So they got him or whatever the case is, and they want to see what they can do or whatever the case is. So they take the Anunnaki sperm, the Homo erectus's eggs, and put it in the Anunnaki womb, and they made another hybrid. They changed the formula, right? So now they have the Neanderthals, right? They repeat the process, and this time they change the gender to female. So then they repeat it 8 times. So now technically you have 16 people on Earth. 8 human clones, 8 female human clones, okay? Okay, so now you have 8 couples on Earth. You have 16 people on Earth. Enki takes the first couple and he takes them over to Eden, his little spot in Eden in Africa to basically tend the garden that he planted there, or whatever the case is. Enlil comes along and sees that the woman, you can call her Eve, you can call her Tiamat, or whatever you want to, has covered herself with an apron that she's made. And then he sees that she's pregnant and realizes this new species can breed, and then he gets pissed. Number one, he's supposed to be in control, so he told them to make clones, not to make a new species that will start to breed. Number two reason why he's pissed is because he's scared this new species will come into some type of self-awareness and disregard the Anunnaki's rule and have no need for them. So it's all a problem. He gets pissed and sends the first couple out of Eden to Africa to breed, to make more miners, to relieve the Anunnaki of the digging chores. Meanwhile, Nibiru is re-entering the inner solar system and is causing all type of havoc on Mars, which makes them relocate that Mars base, part of it anyway, to the moon. They decide they don't need to go to Mars anymore. They'll ship the gold directly from Earth to Nibiru. Now Marduk, who's Enkai's son, is basically sitting around complaining, it's supposed to be my time to rule. I'm your heir. I'm supposed to rule. Why can't I rule? Everybody's coming up for me but me. Enki's telling them, just chill. Your time to be king is coming. After about 100,000 years of this lunacy, the slaves revolted. They got tired of it. They got tired of the fucking mines. They left the mines and they formed the first communities. Others assimilated back into the environment. Some continued to work for for the people that they called gods, or whatever the case is. You can see the maps where they start to migrate and move around. Well, the people who was over there working in Mesopotamia, they started seeing that Enki had a good thing going with all these slaves he had in Africa. He didn't really have to work, and all the people under him that came from Nibiru, they didn't have to work either. And these slaves served them personally, domestically. They did chores, they gardened, they did everything for them, dressed them, washed their clothes, and all of that. So the Mesopotamian Anunnaki, they wanted some slaves too. So Enlil's son, Ninurta, he ran through Africa capturing slaves to work in Mesopotamia. And this is when the population starts to spread a little bit more and climate change start and food shortages start, right? So Enki says to sustain them, he's going to introduce different vegetables and more animals to the whole situation or whatever. So time has been going by, you know, the little beings and slaves on earth, they're breeding, they're having kids, and time goes by and the kids are starting to look better and better, you know, as they mature into their evolution. And Enki comes across two chicks by a little stream and he seduces them both, knocks them both down one day, and they both get pregnant. One has a boy, she names it Adapa. One has a girl, she names it Titi. So these are both Enki's kids. Enki's kids get together and they have sex, and their offspring are the first twins, Cain and Abel. Now, Adapa, his job was to teach all the slaves, all the uncivilized slaves, how to run herds, estates, and plantations. You know, the Cro-Magnon men, the Neanderthal, the other Homo erectus, all the inferior intellect beings. Adapa was created, Homo sapiens was created to control the rest of them and basically be the overseer of the slaves or whatever. Now, by this time, you should see that the Enki clan assumed control of all the livestock and controlling animals and stuff like that, and the mining. The Enlil clan, they pretty much farmed earth and was pretty much setting up colonies. So you got the cowboys pretty much versus the farmers. All right, now you have Cain and Abel, you know what I'm saying, who come from Enki's line, but their jobs became running meat and grain production. They basically were the first farmer and butcher for the world because they had to feed the population. Remember, the population getting big, is food shortages, climate stuff going on. And remember, we were a big family at first. All right. Abel produced meat and wool for the clothes, and Cain grew grains and controlled the water canals where the fish were and all of that, and irrigated the plains. So it got to the point they started arguing about who contributed the most. One summer, it's real hot and it's like a little drought going on. So Abel, you know what I'm saying, he out with his little flock. He takes his flock over into the pastures and fields of his brother Cain so they can eat and drink because, you know, they pretty much starving. You know, if they die, they ain't going to be really no good or whatever the case is. Cain get mad and he kills Abel ass with a rock. The story and all the scriptures and all the different texts say that at this point, that's when Cain was sent out, and the mark that was put upon him is he wasn't going to be able to grow a beard, and they believed that he was the progenitor of like some of the Aryans, the Indians, and the Asians. I don't know. Like I said, you read the story, you come up with that. This is when one of these Anunnaki kids decides he's going to create all these different rituals and traditions for the humans to follow so they can worship the gods and see them as being more sovereign. This is like 15,000 years ago, right before the last ice age hit. You know, food shortages is coming back again, slaves are complaining again or whatever, and it's pretty much starting to get bad. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Marduk, he ain't getting his way. He's still whining or whatever. So he decides to marry an earth woman and give up his rights to rule his home planet because he feel like they're not going to ever let him rule. You know, he feel like he's getting the short end of the stick. Since he's the descendant of his father, he feel like, I'm just going to bind the earthlings to myself. You know what I'm saying? And I win this earth over as my home planet. They can go back and have Nibiru. I'm going to hold things down right here. The council back on Nibiru gets pissed off because how does he want to marry this new species that they created? That's foul. That's wrong. And if you do, that species that you marry ain't never going to be able to come back to the home planet. As a matter of fact, you're not going to be able to come back to the home planet. Marduk didn't care because he figured that, you know, he had pretty much lost his right to rule, or they was going to take it from him anyway. Meanwhile, Enlil's still trying to be in control, still trying to assert authority. Yeah, you can marry your earthling woman, but y'all got to stay in Egypt. That ain't really a problem for Marduk because his father pretty much runs Africa, so he can be in Egypt and be the man. So he's having his wedding. Well, while he's having his wedding, the people who was originally being the gold shuttlers from Mars to the home planet, they're called the Agigi now, okay? Or in the Bible, the Nephilim. Well, 200 of them raid Marduk's wedding, and they snatch up a bunch of earthling women to be their wives too. And they tell Enlil, you better let us, you better let us marry our wives like you let him do, or it's gonna be a problem, and we ain't taking no more go. Enlil is forced to submit. He lets them do it, and this is when you get the first traces of the half Nibiru, half human people on Earth. The giants. Oh, and for everybody who think that there weren't giants on Earth, I'm going to give you a couple of seconds with this. Now, you have these half-breed couples settling down in Babylon and Lebanon. So Marduk's crew is getting bigger and bigger. Well, to offset that, Ninurta, he takes the descendants of Cain and he takes them over to the Andes Mountains in Peru and starts a civilization right there. While his son is building up a civilization in Central and Mesoamerica, Enlil decides he's going to sneak into Enki's camp and start up this real big rebellion. So the slaves revolt and they're about to kill their workmaster, who's half, Nibiru, he's half alien, half human, whatever the case is. And by this time, humans are starting to see the favoritism towards people who got, Anunnaki blood in them as opposed to the humans or whatever. So they don't really like the people that's working there. So they're about to kill dude. To save his life, Enki has to send the workmaster somewhere else. So he sends him to his son's region so he can learn how to build cities and do another job, whatever the case is, and sends his wife to go work with his sister in Lebanon. Well, he goes to visit his workmaster's wife in Lebanon and gets her pregnant. Since she's like, a full civilized human, he's a full Anunnaki, and she got hybrid blood in him. They have sex. She gets pregnant, and the first child she has white skin, white hair, blue eyes. The first white-haired, white person, white-skinned person on Earth. His name was Zuasudra. You might know him as Noah. So now it's after the last ice age. Drought, famine took over, overpopulation, disease is going crazy. People are getting sick and dying. Humans is complaining. The other slaves are complaining. Enlil don't care. He's not gonna teach them medicine because he don't want Marduk to get reinforcements and reestablish his power and take over Earth and rule Nibiru. He don't want this cat coming to his home planet because he's pretty much a hater and he wants to be in control. To offset this and to help out, Enki comes along, teaches mankind agriculture, how to farm lands better, and how to fish the different seas since he was the lord of the sea. Then he tells his brother he didn't teach them, they learned on their own. They're surveying the planet to see what possible damage could occur, and they notice that one of the ice sheets on the polar ice cap is going to slip into the ocean the next time the planet passes. And what this is going to do is produce huge tsunamis that's going to cover most of the Earth. So since Enlil was sick of humans anyway, and he didn't want them to be around, and they pretty much didn't follow his rules and do what he said, and they created this other species, he like, all of them can drown. So he pulls together all the half-breeds and all the other Anunnaki full-bloods, and he tells them, a flood is coming. Don't tell the humans. I want them to die. Everybody who's offspring of the Anunnaki, related to an Anunnaki, married to an Anunnaki, or Anunnaki, are supposed to go to the highlands and to the mountains or whatever. All the full-blood royalty, we're going to circle the planet in our little spaceships, but I want all these humans to drown. All right? Don't tell them nothing. Enki, like, well, I don't want all my creations to die. I'm going to do something. So he collects up a few animals, a whole bunch of DNA samples or whatever, and he takes it over to his son, Zuasudra, or Noah, if you want to call him that. And he pretty much indirectly tells him how to build a boat to survive this coming deluge. And he does. When he finally, After all of the raining and all the flooding and all of that, this big boat comes to rest on a mountain. They come out, they perform some type of little sacrifice where they're burning, animals and all of that. Enlil sees it and he's pissed and he wants to kill Enki. Well, they're going back and forth, whatever, and he discovers that, well, maybe it's better for mankind to have survived. Then when you add to the fact that Zuasudra, or if you call him Nor, was actually Enki's son, he had every right to live since Enlil had already said all the offspring, descendants, and Anunnaki had to survive, the humans had to die. So since Zuasudra, or Noah, was basically a half-breed, he had the right to live. So Enlil let it go. But basically, 300,000 years of mining, work, scientific, genetic manipulation, and all that other stuff was all wiped away in a few seconds. So there's no evidence, and all the evidence is buried under miles of silt, mud, and all this other stuff. That's why they keep digging stuff up. The last pass of Nibiru through the solar system completely snatched the atmosphere off of Mars. And when it did that, it ripped a big hole in the atmosphere of Nibiru that they was fixing with the gold. So now they needed gold again. But hey, there's no civilizations. You got to start from scratch. So now the Anunnaki wants to help mankind. They start reestablishing communities and civilization. They, irrigated the plains, dug canals and all of that. They established kingship, but gold was needed again, and they just killed all the damn slaves. The only people that was left was the Indians and the people that was in the Peruvian mountains and the Andes, the Aryans, who was the descendants of the Nibiru, the half-breed Nibiru humans and stuff like that, and the people who was with Zuasudra. So they needed people to start fucking right away. So let's say it's 11 to 13,000 years ago, the gold mission restarts as the cities start to redevelop. So as the population starts to grow, when you need slaves or whatever, all you got to do is go into the mountains into one of these villages and grab them up. Now, you got Ningazita in Egypt building stuff, except now they're calling him Thoth. That's the eagle-headed bird-faced dude or whatever. He built the Great Pyramids and the whole little complex right there as navigational devices for the spaceships or whatever. And after all of the good working and building he did, well, they dedicated the Sphinx to him. It was a monument dedicated to him and all the great works he done. The original face on the Sphinx was Enki's son, Ningazita. Well, now Marduk, he started to complain again. I'm supposed to rule. Everybody else is getting what they want, and I'm supposed to rule. Enki trying to shut them up, but now all the brothers start to complain, and they want their own lands and shit, right? So everybody going through it on the Enki side and the Enlil side. All the kids want to be rulers now because they see how much dominion they have over these humans. Well, Enlil decides to split up, split up stuff. Enlil decides to give Ninmah, his sister, the middle land, the Sinai, and that was to keep the two clans separated. Lands east of the Sinai was for Enlil and his people, and Enki and his motherfucking lineage was supposed to be in Africa, but they didn't, so they're supposed to be west of the Sinai. Well, Enki is pretty much pulling back. He doesn't want to have that much interaction anymore, so he decides to divvy up Africa amongst his son. He lets Marduk have Egypt and slaves, and it's pretty much going good. Everybody got their own region. Marduk has a couple of kids, Osiris and Seth, and they start a rivalry because Seth is jealous of Osiris. He wants his own land and slaves and all of that. Seth kills Osiris to rule, but he got blocked by Isis, who took Osiris' dead body, took semen from it, impregnated herself, and had his son. So, yeah, you can see, these people are really bugged out. This is about the time when things start getting a little political. Now, the problem is, Enki's people was in all the lands that had all the space travel and all the little communication devices for them to communicate with the home planet. And Enlil and his people, they scared these people control both planets and the Anunnaki's ability to leave Earth when it came time to do it. So they built a whole nother network over in Peru. That's the Nazca lines and all the temples you see by Lake Titicaca and Tiwanaku and stuff like that. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, Enki's son, Dumuzi, and Enlil's granddaughter, Inanna, they fall in love. Now, they from both clans. If they get together, then the clan's going to be united again because not only are they connected through the patriarchal bloodline, they're connected through their mothers too. Well, Marduk who's Dumuzi's brother, is on some jealous shit, and he don't want to see his brother get married because it could possibly block his chance to rule. So he make a scheme to set his own brother up for rape. But when the chick who was trying to set him up tells him what she's gonna do, Dumuzi panics. He tries to go hide himself behind a waterfall. Why would you hide behind a waterfall? He tries to hide by a waterfall, and he basically dies. He drowns. All right. Inanna, who was messing with Dumuzi, knew what time it was. She knew who he was, who he came from, and all of that. And she knew if she got with him, how it would benefit her. So she starts talking. She shows that her whole intentions was to be ruler anyway. So on the low, what she's trying to do is get pregnant by her ex-man's brother, so she can have an heir to the throne or whatever the case is. But the brother-in-law's wife ain't going for it. She kills Inanna, and she basically gets resurrected. After she gets resurrected, now she's pissed. She want to destroy Marduk because he's the reason her man ain't there and the reason why she can't rule no more. So now she's obsessed with getting rid of Marduk, and a whole nother war starts again. Well, the Enki clan has to go to, Ninmah, whose name is Ninharsag now in the Sinai, for protection. She makes both sides agree to a ceasefire. Part of the ceasefire's conditions was the Inkai bloodline would be able to rule over the Giza Strip area forever, and Enlil people, they reserved eternal rights to Jerusalem, Canaan, the Sinai Peninsula, and Lebanon, and in those lands like that, all the Mesopotamian land. And the council convened, and they thought about Marduk and his Agigi, the Gold Union, started the war, and they kicked off a whole bunch of stuff. They agreed that Marduk should never rule. So what Enki did was put Ningajita into Marduk's place of rule because everybody knew who he was and honored him anyway. And that's when Ningajita's name changed to Thoth. Well, now they all get together and they start dividing up lands or whatever, but Inanna got nothing. So she figured since her husband, the bee, got killed, she would have been if he wouldn't have died, she would have been the ruler. So since it wasn't her fault he died, then she should still be allowed to rule. Some real selfish, naggy, whiny bullshit. Well, they have to talk to Anu to calm her down. So 3800 BC, Anu decides to come to Earth. And then when he shows up or whatever, he talks to his granddaughter for a while. He decides his granddaughter should be his royal consort. In other words, he decides to fix this whole thing, he just needs to bang his granddaughter. As a result of this, Inanna got her some land. She got India and Uruk and Sumer. Enki got Africa. Enlil got the land from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean, the highlands of Asia Minor, and the land around the Caspian and Black Seas. The Sinai itself was left for the Anunnaki, just for the Anunnaki. From now on, they weren't supposed to have any interaction with the humans. Kings were supposed to be chosen, and they're supposed to be representatives for the Anunnaki. The priests were supposed to teach the worship and the secret knowledge and the rituals to honor the gods. Now, Inanna, she starts scheming, for all these different programs and stuff to make her city better. So she's scheming on her great-grandfather and her great-uncles, fucking them to try to get information and pump her shit up or whatever on some real dirty cutthroat shit. Meanwhile, Marduk, he gets pardoned for all the dumb shit he, was doing. They let him free. He had got banished. And now he's pissed because he done missed out. He ain't going to be able to rule, and he ain't going to get no land and shit. So he decided, you know what? Fuck y'all. I'm going to build my own city and with a tower big enough to reach fucking heaven. So that's when they started the building of the Tower of Babel. The Anunnaki, they peep out what he's doing. Like, dude is trying to build a city all the way to heaven that's high up in the air so he can shoot his rocket straight to Nibiru when we pass. And then he going to try to rule Earth and Nibiru. We ain't having that. We need to destroy that tower and everybody speak the same language. We need to change that. So that's when Enlil and his family, they destroy the tower, stop the plan, and they reprogram all the languages so people talk differently now. All right? Marduk, ever the coward, he runs back to Egypt. But when he get there, he changes his name to Ra, right? His brother Ningajita, that's Thoth now, but he's ruling, Egypt, holding it down or whatever. Ra don't like that. So he's going to start a fight with his brother. They start going into it. The father comes along, Enki, his name now is Ptah, P-T-A-H, or whatever. He tells Thoth, man, go ahead and leave Egypt. Let Marduk have it. He's been there for so long. Let him have it. You go ahead, you can move around. He can't really do much. He's confined to Egypt or whatever. So Thoth, he leaves, goes somewhere, builds Stonehenge, build a couple other little things, and then he goes to Mesoamerica, where he was named the Feathered Serpent, Quetzalcoatl. Now, Marduk, he's Ra. He done been denied all this time. He's pissed. He rewrites all the history to make himself the exalted ruler and the creator of the gods, and his brother just a divine measurer. Then he went and disfaced the Sphinx so it would look like his son Osiris. About this time, Inanna over in India, now she's called Ishtar, and she's being followed by the Aryans, and she started the Indo-European culture. Well, ever since her man died and she was denied the chance to rule and be supreme queen, she went fucking nuts. Started hallucinating, and she was always seeing her dead lover. She was seeing him everywhere. Every guy approached, she thought it was him coming back, and she was just sleeping with as many men as she could, right? But there was one problem. She was a damn alien. So everybody she had sex with, the legend was, every man that went to bed with her at night didn't wake up at dawn. And when she finally had sex with a dude and he woke up, the next day he woke up, she thought some type of way immortality had been put in her pussy. So having sex with her made the man live forever. The man who didn't die after having sex with her, his name was Banda. Banda also had another encounter with another goddess, the goddess Ninsun. The result of that encounter, their son, Gilgamesh. Well, Gilgamesh, being 3/4 Anunnaki, he was a powerful, strong, ruthless dude. And he was pretty much fucking over his people so fucking bad that the Anunnaki had to make a clone, somebody equal of his strength and his, basically equal to his stature to keep his ass distracted. And his name was Enkidu. Well, anyway, one day while Gilgamesh was bathing, Inanna saw him naked and was like, he's so beautiful, and then asked him to come get with her, come bone me. He knew about the little rumors about her, and he was related to her, so he told her ass to beat it. She got pissed, and it started a war between the two of them. As they went back and forth, he handled all her challenges like it wasn't nothing. And after all of that was done, he saw his best friend Enkidu die. Now he spent the remainder of his days searching for immortality. He went through all these different trials and tribulations and finally got granted the ability to be young forever, and it had it snatched right out of his hand. When he was dying, as an honor to him, he had he didn't have him, the Anunnaki did. They killed his wife, his concubine, his priest, his cupbearer, his musicians, his attendants, and everybody, so they would all be with him in the afterlife. That was when he died, he was going to have to need everybody to be with him or whatever. He was going to grant him immortality after the afterlife, right? Which was a lie. Well, all this is going on, Inanna thinks that she's giving people immortality through her pussy. The Anunnaki are promising people everlasting life after they die. He started thinking, how can I use this to my advantage? See, the humans thought that the Anunnaki was immortal. They didn't know they just lived for a long time. And everybody else wanted to be immortal. So he figured he would use that desire to his advantage. He told the kings that he put in power that they would come to heaven to live with the gods after they died. Then he made himself supreme god and began to gain more power. He started to reestablish Babylon. While this was going on, Inanna and his brother Nergal, they start fucking and they're scheming how to stop him. While they're doing that, they capture Lebanon, Jerusalem, Jericho, Egypt, Akkad, Uruk, and Sumer. And then they do all of that to get beaten by Ninurta. In 2220 BC, Ninurta, he rebuilds Mesopotamia and restores the Enlil family's power. Then he recruits Thoth from the Enki family to help keep Marduk in check. He don't want Ra getting too crazy because he got a whole bunch of earthling followers who believe if they worship him and they die, then they'll go to heaven, which is Nibiru. But the thing is, after all these years of abuse and war and slavery and all that dishandling and mishandling of humans, they don't trust these Anunnaki motherfuckers. So basically, both clans have to put like a human proxy in front. Well, after years of just killing slaves for no reason, mistreating them, beating them, and abusing them and all of that, these people started having trouble controlling humans and making humans do anything. Since Marduk, appeared human and got down with the humans, they was all pretty much rolling with him. And the Enlil clan didn't know what to do. Enki's cool because this is his son. After some time, Enlil looking around humans who he can trust, who still worships the old ways and still worships the gods that he wants them to worship, and he finds Abraham. And he's like, you know what? I want you to rule. You come from bloodline, your father's a high priest, so you're part Anunnaki anyway, you'll be the perfect candidate, right? So he can block, Marduk and his son Nabu army from getting too big because they're recruiting all these earthlings that's riding with him, that's really going with him and fighting for him, marching for him. So that's not really working. He kind of block him a little bit, but it's not really happening because Marduk has people in so many different lands. So Enlil sends his sons Ninurta and Nergal to spy on Sodom and Gomorrah. These two cities where Marduk he controls the cities and he got a large following. They see what's going on. They see that dude's army is getting big. He has an army that's covering so many fronts. They don't know what to do. Now, if you remember, these people, they follow certain rules when it comes to ruling these planets or whatever, preordained, pre-sanctioned stuff and stuff like that. And they also go by celestial and zodiacal time. Now, by celestial times, it was Marduk's time to rule. He had been pardoned and everything. It was his time to rule. It was the time of the ram. It was time for him to rule. But everybody was scared that he was going to pull it and try to rule both worlds. Now, by celestial time and all the agreements, it was Marduk's time to rule. But all these greedy, selfish people were scared that they would lose out if Dude had a chance to rule, because with such a big earthling following, he would be able to rule both worlds and everybody pretty much looking out for themselves or whatever. The Sinai Peninsula is so important during this because that's where all the communication and pretty much takeoff, equipment is, whatever the case is. So if Marduk take over the earth, he's going to hold down the planet, keep the Anunnaki there, whatever the case is, and he can just be supreme on both. And they don't want that to happen. So they decide, with this dude army getting big, it's his time to rule. We can't really do nothing with them. We don't want him on both planets. What's the lesser of two evils? He can have earth, but he can't have the communication equipment. So what they did, they bombed Sodom, Gomorrah, and 3 other cities that were all loyal to Marduk to knock out all the telecommunications equipment and any type of way for him to contact or get to Nibiru. Ironically, after they bombed, which they did with nukes, after they bombed Sodom, Gomorrah, and these other little cities, well, the resulting radioactive cloud, it starts going towards Sumer and killing off everybody. Babylon didn't get touched, but everybody over in Enlil's land, who pretty much just bombed Marduk's land, even though you killed all these people in Marduk's land, now this radioactive cloud is coming to kill all your people off. So Enlil and his people, they run off. Now Marduk is supreme because they can't hold up their defenses. He's controlling the earth. So now his family, the Aryans, they start taking over and conquering everybody and enforcing their self-imposed superiority on everybody. Now, the Enlil clan is down. It's just a few people who still follow the old ways, the old rituals, and all that other stuff. So he said, I'm going to choose this guy Abraham to be the guy who's going to start my nation up again, and I need to be able to differentiate him from the rest of these humans. So you know what you got to do? You have to cut the foreskin off your penis so your penis looks like Anunnaki penises, so we're able to identify with you. Then, if that wasn't enough, to continue to test him, he made Abraham abandon one son, which was Ishmael, send him off into the desert to die, and then he almost made him kill his other son Isaac to make sure that Abraham was loyal to him. Funny thing is, he had Abraham run off Hagar and her child Ishmael into the desert, and then he went to their rescue. So, Enlil is Allah. Well, while that was going on, Abraham's son Isaac, he comes into his own, and he has 2 sons, Esau and Jacob. Jacob was the one that wrestled the Anunnaki all night. And after he held his own, the Anunnaki named him Israel. When Israel had kids, his kids pretty much started a nation. A nation of people who were all dedicated and loyal to following Enlil, who now is called Yahweh or Jehovah. I could continue telling you this story, but I'm pretty sure you can pick it up because the rest of it's in your house or in your car or around you. It's in a book called the Holy Bible.